Woke up this morning with the sun down, shining in.
Roy Smalley is in Kansas City at one of my favorite old school style ballparks. I'm Jim Suhan. I am in Minneapolis. This is one of our remote episodes of the Roy Smalley's Chin Music podcast. This is our baseball show on talknorth.com. Check out all the shows at the website. Thanks to Berry Coffee, berrycoffee.com for sponsoring. We'll also be welcoming a new sponsor for the program next week. Roy, set the scene for me. You're in Kansas City. Twins end the first, not really the first half, the pre-All-Star portion of the schedule with a 9-2 homestand. They're all optimistic after Brian Dozier hits a walk-off grand slam on Sunday afternoon. I was in there. And then during the break, Miguel Sano has to go for kind of a bereavement leave. Buxton's still on the disabled list, and Cleveland trades for Brad Hand and a good young reliever. What do you think this does to the Twins' hopes, and do you have any sense of the team's mood?
I don't have a sense of the team's mood other than when you go 9-2 in a homestand and start swinging the bats well, everybody feels better. There's nothing at all. I would just tell you, there's nothing at all like swinging the bats well for team morale. And I think the sense should be that that the first half was characterized, for the most part, with Escobar and Rosario exceptions. The first half was characterized by guys not swinging the bat the way they can, and most notably Dozier and Kepler, and no Polanco, and so and Joe Mauer inconsistent only because of injury, and so if I'm on that club looking at the second half, I'm thinking to myself, we're feeling really good about ourselves if we can swing the bats the way we know we can. Generally speaking, guys are going to hit what they're going to hit, and if they hit well below that the first half, there generally is a makeup, a reversion to the mean, which would, in this case, would be a lot of upside for a lot of guys. I think they've got enough pitching that if that were to happen, then they could have a fun second half.
If you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs across the network, you can reach me at jsuhan47@gmail.com. And if you listen to this program, please download. It's a better listening experience. It helps us out as well. Let's talk about emotions, because when you cover a baseball team and the team is anywhere near contention, what you hear from player after player is, boy, if we make a trade, that'll prove that the front office, cares about this team, wants to win this year. It's going to bring up the spirits in the clubhouse. And yet, every year we see trade deadline deals that backfire or don't work out as well, or don't, they don't lead to the intended result. And last year, we saw with the Twins, they traded away people. It ticked off the clubhouse, and they actually played better after giving away a couple players. So do you ever worry about the emotions? Do you think that's a big factor when it comes to trade deadline type deals?
I think players have to be pretty careful about acknowledging or believing. For last year, for example, oh, you guys don't believe in us? Well, we'll show you. Well, why didn't you didn't want to show anybody in the first half?
Exactly.
I think that's I don't think it's true that that's the reason that they swung the bats so well in the second half. I think it was more of an example of what I'm talking about, a reversion to the mean. Brian Dozier went off in the second half. Jorge Polanco went off in the second half. Byron Buxton went off in the second half. I don't think that, maybe Brian, as leader of the club, felt a little emotion about that, but I really don't believe Polanco and Buxton did. And I think it was a reversion to, what guys are likely to do for 162 games when they hadn't done that much in the first half. And so I think, first of all, I don't think it's true. And second, I think if you're a player, you got to be really careful about saying that was a result of the fact that you got emotional about and wanted to show the front office that you don't like that they don't believe in you. I think guys want to be pretty clear that they're busting it the whole season.
Right. And I also think it's just a really, I mean, you know how it works in baseball clubhouses, especially these days. So many people are in there covering the team, or at least getting sound bites after a home game. And a lot of those people are not people who cover baseball. They're people who are there looking for, one or two clips they can take back to their TV or their radio station. They're not exactly getting in depth. And it's just the easy thing for people to talk about. It's the easy thing to say, they got fired up. Well, like you said, why weren't you fired up when the games were really important earlier in July, And it also reminds me of a conversation. I remember talking to Morneau, and it might have been 06 or 07, and he was still a fairly young player. And he said he and I had a long talk, and he said, I think this front office needs to commit to our team and prove that they want to win. And he kind of did all those cliches that we were just talking about, right? And then a couple of years later, I went back to him with the same question. Again, the Twins were in pretty good shape. They, probably could have used another arm or two. And I asked him the same questions, and he said, I know what I said a few years ago. He said, now that I've kind of matured a little bit, I realize is if I sit here in this clubhouse and say we need the front office to go get us a couple of players, what I'm really doing is I'm telling my teammates that I don't think a couple of them are good enough to help us win. Or that I'm not. I can't contribute enough. You got to help me out here because I'm not that good. I mean, I think it's the mantra of players that don't know, that don't know the reality of things. Young players, there's two ways to go with a young player. They can either say that because they don't know what else to say, but I think more to the point, especially last year, and I made this point last year when it was happening. Polanco, he doesn't know. He's trying to prove himself as a big league player and help the club win. Buxton, ditto. Kepler, ditto. Rosario, ditto. They're not saying, those kids were not that far away from the season before, where they're just trying to stay in the big leagues. Believe me when I tell you, a young kid wants to win, wants to do all those things. But you know what the first thing he wants to do? He wants to stay in the big leagues. That's what he wants to do. And that's not selfish. That's just reality.
That's just reality. And I don't, who are you going to, how would you blame those kids? I mean, staying in the big leagues means doing all the things that are going to help a club win. I'm just talking about what's first and foremost in a young player's mind is not going back to AAA. You get a taste of the show and there's no place else to play. And it's like, okay, I just want to stay here. You let everybody else worry about everything else. I want to stay here.
The other conversation reminded me of, I remember Ron Gardenhire used to complain a lot when the team didn't do something at the trading deadline. So after a while, Terry Ryan invited Gardy up to spend trade deadline day with him. In the afternoon, they had a night game at the Metrodome, and Gardy spent the morning, the afternoon in Terry's office with the Brain Trust, and just, doing what GMs do. They call everybody, they take every call, they try to figure out if anything is a fit. And Gardy came down that afternoon. He said, I'm never going to complain about them not doing deals again because now I know what people ask for, and people ask for the world.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, people think it's easy to make a trade. It's not. It is not easy to make a trade because you look at the player that you have and you look what's being offered, back, and you don't get, value received. And they're going to go through that with, they did it last year with Brian Dozier. They're doing it again right now with Brian Dozier. They're looking at, they're fielding offers about, other kids on, other guys in the lineup. And they say, okay, what do you give us for that? And they listen to that and they say, we're way better off with Brian, or we're way better off, we can't make that deal. And they ask, so then you ask for something else, and the other club says, no, we can't. I mean, we can't do that. The other club goes through that same process. It's hard to make a trade. It really is, because you're looking at a club that, wants to win both teams, unless you're really terrible, and the Twins are not. You're looking at, in the Twins example, a team that wants to win ball games in the second half, but wants to set themselves up for the next 5, 6, 7 years. it's hard to get value received for really good players in that scenario. So it's not easy.
Let's talk about a trade that did go through that's pretty fascinating in and of its own self. After we tell you about berrycoffee.com, we've highlighted a lot of aspects of their business, a lot of their different products, their marketplace that you can set up in your own business. Today, let's talk about some of their machinery, their equipment. They can sell you a Curtis Airpot system, a double Airpot brewer, a Curtis Thermo Pro single, a Thermo Pro double, Gemini single serve coffee brewer, Gemini coffee brewer, the Dewey Egbert stuff, glass pot brewer, cappuccino and espresso makers. They give you the coffee grinder, the espresso machine, tea brewers, single serve stuff. Check them out at berrycoffee.com and go to the equipment page. They even have water and filtration systems and single serve stuff. I know that Roy has some kind of machinery he can't even pronounce at his house.
Yeah, I can't even tell you what it is. This is how you pronounce it. That's good.
And of course, then you can get the Berry Coffee. Is it the Bull Run blend? I want to make sure I give exactly the right name.
Yes, it is the Bull Run House blend.
And we're right now. My wife and I are living in an apartment. We're empty nesters. We're enjoying downtown living. Someday, especially with her new job, we'll probably end up buying a house in maybe up the northern suburbs. And when we do, we're definitely gonna go to Berry Coffee and get some equipment. I'm basically gonna have to break into Roy's house and see what he has, because he's making me jealous of his setup. The Cleveland deal. They trade an excellent, maybe the best catching prospect in baseball for two relievers, and that shows you the kind of deal you have to make if you really want to go for it. Cleveland, they're up against great competition across the American League, but they lead the AL Central by 7.5 games. I think they believe that they've got another year and a half, 2 years of prime contention before their best players become too expensive for them to keep all of them. They're going for it, and what it costs to go for it is you trade a great catching prospect who might have been a star for 10 years for a left-handed all-star closer, Brad Hand, Minnesota native, and a rookie reliever who can help you out in the short term.
Yeah, it's an incredible deal. It really is. When you think about all the stuff that's going on in Cleveland, they're not loaded with catching at the major league level. I mean, it's not like they have a Johnny Bench or Carlton Fisk for the next 10 years, and the kid they traded, who knows, might turn out to be that. And still, what they're saying is, for the rest of this year and then into the playoffs, I mean, they think they're going to win. They think that they need one, bullpen help to win it. But you watch Terry Francona managed his bullpen in the postseason last year, and he wants another three guys, a three-headed monster again, like he had last year with Andrew Miller and Shaw and Cody Allen. They let Brian Shaw go, and then Andrew Miller, got hurt. And so they've got, with Andrew Miller, I mean, there's two things going on there. They want Andrew Miller back, and hopefully he's healthy right through the playoffs. But he's had a balky knee here for a while, and you don't know whether he's gonna hold up. If they don't make that deal, they go into the second half of the season and the playoffs with Cody Allen and no way to get to him. Not a pennant contending or a playoff contending way to get to Cody Allen. So they feel like they have to make that deal. And isn't it interesting that they let Brian Shaw go and then have to trade the best catching prospect in baseball potentially to replace Brian Shaw? So there's a lot of interesting things that are going on there, but it just goes to show you what they think about bullpen stardom and how important it is down the stretch and into the playoffs.
Jim Cott, who is known as a bit of a traditionalist, has suggested that baseball might want to go to a 7-inning game. We've talked about possible rule changes that would increase the pace of play or reduce